Previously on Short and to the Point.
Get a grip, Colton. You are not going mad.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
No, Billy!
What the f? Ever had one of those days that starts out like any other, but then winds up being the best day ever? I did. 14 glorious years ago, on my 8th birthday, I woke up, went about my business, and then BAM! I found out that my parents rented out a movie theater. As in just one theater, not the entire building. For me and my friends to see Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Don't judge me. I was an 8-year-old Star Wars fanatic. Seeing a brand new Star Wars movie on the big screen was the equivalent of something else really incredible happening. Not a day goes by that I don't think back to that party, the bittersweet nostalgia of it all. You know, all this reminiscing reminds me of a movie I recently saw. And that movie is from the makers of Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, and the director of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, comes... Ouch. So, like I said in my last review, I am going to extend the time limit of this review to however long it takes me to review it. So, welcome to Short and to the Point, where I usually review movies in 5 minutes or less, or your money back. Okay, negatives first. 1, the movie's fight sequences are completely implausible, which is saying a lot given this movie's premise. Would you expect any of these people aside from maybe Simon Pegg to be able to put up a fight against anything? It's like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, where we have to, well, just roll with the fact that everybody knows how to fight because it looks cool. And it is. That's mostly a nitpick, however. Secondly, most of Gary's dialogue feels like it's just comprised of jokes rather than anything someone would say in an actual conversation. This is particularly noticeable due to the fact that everybody plays straight person to Simon Pegg. I know this movie is a comedy and the jokes are funny, I'm just saying that it can get a little distracting is all. And finally, the movie's ending, like most films this summer, is a little abrupt. Though in the movie's defense, I thought it was one of the better handled endings of the summer, and it was a good twist, I think, on the typical formula. I just think that other people might see it as a cop-out. I can't really say for sure, but that's how I see things. Moving on, our heroes are led by who else? Simon Pegg, along with Nick Frost, Paddy Considine, Martin Freeman, and Eddie Marsan. Simon plays Gary, but his friends call him the King. Why? Because his name is Gary King! Simon Pegg brings his usual wit as our slacker hero and gets most of the movie's best lines. Nick Frost as Andy, however, does play a good straight man to him. Okay, I know I said everyone plays straight person to Simon Pegg, but Nick Frost is the most important. He and Simon Pegg go together like Batman and Ron. Never mind. There was good casting for everyone else, however, even amongst the run-of-the-mill goons. Now, Gary seems like a guy that has it all. He appears as the fun-loving life of the party, in contrast to his friends who are rather uptight to say the least, especially Andy. They all have their own problems, such as marital problems, old crushes, yada yada, but at least they have seemed to have moved on with their lives, while Gary hasn't. He has his own set of problems, such as being an alcoholic and being extremely full of himself. A stark contrast to his character from Shaun of the Dead. What I enjoyed most about this movie was its story. Now, at face value, it seems like your typical journey of self-discovery. You see, 20 years ago, Gary and his friends went on a pub crawl. 5 guys, 12 pubs, 60 pints of beer, starting at the first post and then proceeding to the Old Familiar, the Famous Cock, the Cross Hands, the Good Companions, the Trusty Servant, the Two-Headed Dog, the Mermaid, the Beehive, the King's Head, and the Hole in the Wall. All before that last bittersweet pint and that most fateful terminus, the World's End. Too bad they didn't finish. Now Gary wants to complete that pub crawl, and magically swoops in to recruit his friends for a night that promises to be legend. Wait for it. Dairy. Legendary. Gary treats this trip like a king coming to reclaim his throne. However, once he and his friends reach their hometown of Newton Haven, things aren't quite what they expected. I mean, it's boring. In fact, it's so boring that if it wasn't for the flashback at the start of the film, I think that Gary made everything up about the original pub crawl. Even the Mermaid, which appears to be the most enjoyable of the 12 pubs, seems just uncomfortable for our heroes. And to make matters worse, Andy flat out refuses to drink any beer, instead asking for a tap water.
What?
Yeah, Gary, not only has the town changed, but so have your friends. But what are you going to expect after 20 years? Now, things are further complicated by the fact that our heroes have to skip one of the pubs, causing Gary to steal someone else's drink because he'll be damned if they do not make this a complete recreation of their original pub crawl. For crying out loud, Gary is dressed similarly, if not exactly the same as he was 20 years ago. Now, if this were any ordinary film, our heroes would spend the rest of the movie trying to knock some sense into Gary, which they do attempt, since what should matter is that they are together again, and not finishing the Golden Mile. However, since this is an Edgar Wright movie, nothing can ever be handled simply. So when our heroes reach the 4th pub, the Cross Hands, this journey of self-discovery takes an unexpected turn. I mean, robots show up. We as an audience already knew that these robots would arrive, but I did like how things were set up initially, as the townspeople just stare at Gary, Peter, Andy, Steven, and Oliver like they are strangers in their own town, which they are given how it's been 20 years. Now let's freeze the movie for a moment. Thus far, this hasn't been the epic thrill ride that Gary was hoping for, and the robot showing up was a rather abrupt shift in genres. So if someone wanted to, they could say that Gary just imagined this whole robot invasion thing in his mind to cope with the fact that nobody remembers him and to spice up what would have otherwise been a boring night. Not only that, but he's also drunk, so that can also explain the killer robot showing up. Come to think of it, this would also explain how he and his friends are able to hold their own against killer robots, or should I say, Terminators. What am I doing? And speaking of the fights, yeah, I know I said that they are completely implausible, but the fights are just awesome to watch regardless, thanks to the awesome fight choreography and the kick-ass soundtrack that goes with it. And whether or not the robots were real, I did like the movie's theme of nostalgia, and how some things need to be, well, let go. What was great years ago might not be the same in the present, and that doesn't mean that the appeal has been lost. You can look back on the moment with a fresh pair of eyes, appreciate the moment for what it was, and move on. Because the past is just that, the past, and trying to cling to it will only hold you back. Gary, unfortunately, does not get the message, and lets his fierce desire to finish the Golden Mile put him and his friends in danger. Things continue to escalate as they jump from pub to pub, and you're probably wondering, why don't they just leave town? Well, the reason is, well, 1, Gary is determined to finish the Golden Mile, as I just said, and 2, Gary does give a reason for why they should stay. You see, they already told the robots that they are going to finish the Golden Mile, so if they suddenly left, the robots might get suspicious. Not to mention that they are all drunk so they couldn't drive anyway, and they also all have blood in their hands.
It's more like ink. We've got ink on our hands.
Whoops. Relax, it's ketchup. One final quick note deals with the development of our heroes. As they battle their way through the pubs and come to terms with their own personal problems, some characters have more development than others. Though thanks to the development of the story and the way the characters act, no one comes across as a red shirt. I know I talked about Gary the most, but well, he's the king, so he deserves to be talked about the most. However, in spite of that, it's actually Andy that I think has the most epic moment of the entire cast of characters. I won't spoil what it is, but just so you know what to look out for, it's a moment that involves something of his that gets stolen by one of the robots. It's a small moment, but it still packs quite a punch. The whole movie does, really. It's a good concept with good characters, good humor, good action, good everything. Okay, no movies are that perfect, but you know what I mean. I'd give it 8.5 slacker heroes out of a possible 10. And if this movie were still in theaters, I'd recommend it for a theatrical viewing. So instead, you'll just have to see it on DVD, Blu-ray, on demand, whatever floats your boat. And if you go see the movie based on my review and didn't enjoy it, then just email me and I'll pay back the price for however you paid to see it out of my own pocket. Nah, not really. I mean, with prices as high as they are today, I can't afford that. No, I didn't. No, it's not. My catchphrase is, why I review movies in 5 minutes or less, or your money back. It's my show, I do it however I please. You have a problem with it? What are you gonna do about it? Well, you gonna do anything? What are you gonna do? Ouch. You know, this might be a good time to end the review. This has been short and to the point, and I usually review movies in 5 minutes or less, or your money back. Now, after this review, I'm going to be taking a short break from reviewing movies for small personal reasons. It's nothing important, nothing really big anyway. I'll hopefully get back to reviewing movies soon. Sooner than you think. Howdy, Colton. What do you say we have a little talk?